We'll do this. I think I remember my grandpa like telling that joke to my dad when they were drinking non-alcoholic beer together. All right. It's Thursday, September 10th, 2020. I'm Rim.
I'm Scott.
And this is Geek Nights. Tonight, we are reviewing the fantastic film, Parasite. All right, launch in whenever you're ready.
You may or may not know, if you'd listened to the opening bits or whatever, that since, I can't go outside as much these days, I've been biking inside. And I set up a little streaming thing, so...
With your Zwift. I did find some stuff I can do, because our bike is really cheap, but the sensor, like the computer stuff, I can just plug it into a better device.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm looking into that.
Yeah, I actually learned yesterday that there was a way to use my Apple Watch as heart rate monitor to connect to the Zwift.
Ooh.
So I tried it. It looked like it was working. I don't know how accurate it is. It feels like it has a delay because if you look at the graphs of like wattage versus heart rate.
Oh, like watt goes up and the heart rate goes up like a minute
watt goes
later.
up, it goes down, then the heart rate goes up just after. So
yeah.
there's like a...
So one thing you have to bear in mind is that heart rates, like your heart doesn't react instantly, and like ramping up and slowing down.
I don't know anything about heart rates. That's like the first time in my whole life I've tracked heart rate while exercising.
Oh. So the one thing that you might find interesting, that this is something you can watch for in the data regardless of that, is the way to tell if your heart is getting like athlete conditioned is a very specific thing that happens. And the thing is, normal people, when you exercise, your heart rate goes up, right? Like if you work harder, it beats faster. When you stop exercising or slow down, it doesn't just slow back down right away. It actually takes it a while. Like it'll slow down very slowly. Your body's like, I don't know if he's done yet. Let's be ready. Keep beating, keep beating. But if you actually train a lot and like get past the point of just being like a normal person.
Well, I don't think Zwift is going to detect that because it stops tracking as soon as I push end exercise.
Yeah. So when I do stuff, I always leave my things tracking for like a minute or two after I'm done so I can see the drop off.
Yeah, I don't know if it does. Anyway, I'll look at it maybe next time.
But basically,
the point is,
if your heart drops like right back to 60, like within 30 seconds of stopping biking, that means you basically have the heart of a pro athlete. Like you've done it.
Yeah, I don't think that's happening.
If you keep biking at the rate you're doing, that might happen.
It's not biking very hard.
Yeah, well, I guess you'd have to do intervals, which I imagine you will never do.
I think it might be doing intervals and doing whatever the thing says to do, right? Yep. But it's,
Do you know what intervals are?
It's you work hard, then you don't work hard.
Yep. It's
then
like
you work hard again.
Run so hard it hurts for a few minutes. Then slow down and jog for like 5 minutes.
It's basically like, all right, do this many watts, and I'm like, ooh, that's a lot of watts. It's more than just chilling, right? But then it's like, okay, go back to just chilling. All right, do a lot of watts again. But I don't do so many it hurts, right? Because I have my policy of if it hurts, don't do that.
Oh, I do spin training where I go to the point of cardiovascular pain on purpose.
I do not. I mean, I don't find breathing heavily to be uncomfortable or painful. Yep. So it's like, yeah, I am breathing heavily and my heart rate goes up, but I am in no way in pain. If I'm in pain of any kind, I'm like, nope.
Yeah, I guess it's because there's a difference between like achy or like tired or exerting versus like, ow, there's a pain, something's wrong.
Yeah, it's like, if I'm just breathing heavily, it's like, okay.
Yeah. No, if I breathe in and there's like
sweating, it's like, oh, what's the big deal?
Yep.
It's not, I don't care, right?
So what heart rate do you sit at, like when you're doing a long bike, now that you're getting some data?
I only did it one time.
Oh, I'm curious, because I have data now. When I run long distances, my heart sits at about 160 to 170 the whole time.
Uh-huh. So, I mean, I think if I look at it from yesterday, it was like, depending on the wattage, right? Mm-hmm. So it was basically... It only got up to I think the highest was 180 for like a second or two, right? It's like they're like little dots in the 180 area. Most of the time it was in the 150, 160 zone, right? Like a little curve, like lump, right? But you could see it going up and down based on the wattage that was being demanded, right?
So the cool thing you can do is there's something called the RPE scale. It's like this 1 to 10 scale that's basically how do you feel? And if you remember the number you would put on that scale, coupled with the heart rate, you can figure out like basically how healthy your heart is, like pretty directly. It's a cool thing.
I always feel the same. I pretty much have two feelings. My feeling is A, just chilling. I guess 3 feelings. Just chilling.
Yep.
Right. Okay, I'm not just chilling, but it doesn't hurt. and then that's too much. I'm not going to do that.
All right, so like I'll give you an example.
Those are the three
A
failings.
1 on that scale is hardly any exertion, more like watching TV than walking. A 2 or a 3
so that's
is like
definitely less than just chilling.
a 3 is you could do this for hours. It's easy to breathe and carry a conversation. Like a 5 or 6, you're breathing
All right,
heavily.
so that's just chilling. Yeah.
Like a 5, breathing heavily, but you could still hold a conversation. 7.
I mean, I can hold a conversation, but I have to like stop between words.
Yep. So that like a 4, you could hold a conversation. A 6, you have to like pause. Like you can have conversations, but it's slightly challenging, and like you have to say shorter.
Yes, I don't think I have that middle one there. I pretty much have either just chilling. I could do this for hours, and then I have to pause.
So here, a 7, borderline uncomfortable, short of breath, can speak a sentence.
I don't do 7.
9, very hard to maintain, can barely breathe, can speak maybe a few words at a time.
Yeah, I
10,
don't do
maximum effort. You literally could not push yourself further, even if your life were in danger. You are unable to speak even a single word. You cannot maintain this for more than 30 seconds.
Yeah, I don't do any of those.
I've only experienced that twice in my life, and that was in a doctor's office getting a heart test.
Because basically what happens
They
is
made me run until I said 10, and then they immediately stopped the treadmill, and I was done.
when they ask for too much wattage, I just pedal really slowly, like. And I'm like, all right, we're moving the pedals. They're moving. Yeah, whatever, I don't care. No, so an interesting thing happened which is a thing that I had heard of before, right? But apparently, I guess that's the first time it happened to me.
Ooh.
It's not really a big deal, right? But when I was done, I smelled a weird smell that wasn't a BO smell.
Oh, you got into keto, it sounds like. You were burning fat.
I don't know. So then I Googled, and it's like, yeah, if you smell like an ammonia smell, and I'm like, it might be an ammonia smell, vaguely. I don't know, right? They're like, yeah, that means, something. And
Muscle
they're like,
burn.
they're like, drink more water. And I'm like, I already drink the most water. I can't possibly drink more water.
Yep, you might have to fuel more.
I think that it's like eat more food or something. I'm like, okay,
So
I
I
just
actually
eat the
ran
same
into
food
something
I
similar.
always eat. I don't know.
During the quarantine, like I'm doing these crazy long runs, like way more than I used to, and I'm like really working out, way more than I ever did. So normally what would happen is I do a long thing, and at some point, my body is like out of calories, like whatever I've eaten is gone, and fat starts getting burned. And that causes like your sweat to smell a certain way. You'll like taste this acetone like flavor in your mouth sometimes. There's all sorts of things that happen. But if you keep going and you don't have any more fat to burn, then you smell this more like acrid ammonia and other smells, like the sour smells. And that means that your body's actually starting to break down muscles. You're making yourself weaker.
That's not good.
Yeah.
But I wasn't even working hard. I was just chilling.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. Maybe you're not eating enough compared to your activity levels now.
I'm not hungry.
Yeah.
I'm eating when I'm hungry and not eating when I'm not hungry.
Yeah. There's a lot of stuff that could be. I'd have to smell it, but there's no way for me to do that.
Yeah, I don't know. Whatever. But that's just an interesting thing. And it's like, it's not some unknown thing. Like there's info about it on the internet. So. But yeah, if you smell weird after you exercise, Google it.
Yep. So, got any news?
Yeah, the sort of a little combo-y news here, right? So, the movie we've all been waiting to see for a super long time, right? From Cartoon Saloon, the Irish animation studio, the makers of the amazing films, Breadwinner, Secret of Kells, Song of the Sea, right? They were making the Wolfwalkers. They've been making the Wolfwalkers for a long time. We've been following it very closely, right? It is actually coming out finally on Saturday, 2 days from now, the 12th. Holy crap, it's actually coming out. It's for real, right? We were watching like previews of it and behind the scenes of it, right? We've been following this thing. Oh my God. So we've also known for a while that they made a deal with Apple, like iPhone Apple, right? Steve Apple, right? Tim Apple. So it is going to be on Apple TV Plus, which you can either get a free trial if you've got, I guess, some kind of Apple device, or pay $5 a month, right? So that's one way to watch it. It's going to be GKids has the license in the US as expected, but how are you going to go to a movie theater? I guess you wait for GKids to make a DVD or go to a drive-in or risk your life to see it. I wouldn't do that. live in a different country where the movie theater is safer, you can do that. I'm sure it'll be distributed wherever you live if you're listening to this podcast.
Yeah.
And I was like, damn, how am I going to watch this? Am I going to pirate it? Am I going to get a free Apple TV trial and try to rip it from Apple TV? What am I going to do? All right. Tom Moore, the director of the film, on Twitter was doing a little, he said, hey, send in questions. So I asked, and Tom said, you'll be able to buy it on iTunes, which is not subscribing to Apple TV, right? Something anyone can do, right? You know, without owning Apple devices, you can just install iTunes for Windows on your Windows PC and buy it and get a video file that you can then play. So that's, I guess, a superior option.
Yep. Because most things that I want to see, I tend to just buy them on like Amazon, and I just have this library that's slowly building of things I've bought.
Sure. If you think about it, though, right? It's like, okay, what am I going to buy this movie for $15, right? Probably $20. Who knows how much they're going to charge?
$15 would be like the cost of one ticket to go see it at Astoria Kaufman.
That's true. That's very true. So
and if it were in this, if I could go to the Astoria Kaufman Theater today and see that movie, I would pay the $15 like right now.
You would. Yeah. That's one way to look at it, right? But another way to look at it is, hey, that Apple TV Plus, assuming you have an Apple device to use Apple TV Plus.
Oh, I see where you're going with this.
Is only $5 a month.
Yeah, so just get it for 3 months
without even a free trial. So it's like, you know, it's the same kind of deal where, you know, people always come at Adobe Creative Cloud and these other subscription services, right? You know, as being like, in principle, they don't like it. They want to own stuff, right? It's like, I see where that principle comes from, right? But it's like, listen, if they take something down and it's not available anymore, just pirate. It's like, pirate it. What's the big deal, right? It's like, you know, it's nothing. You're not going to lose anything in the age of the internet. Someone out there has got it for you, right? And the subscriptions, despite being in principle not owning stuff, economically are, if you're going to go this legal route, are way, way better than buying things, right? It's like, pay $5 a month. You can get Apple TV, a free trial, and then 3 months worth.
Well, the caveat is
for the cost of buying one movie, you can see all that Apple TV Plus shit.
Yep. The caveat normally is that a lot of these things disappear from streaming services over time. Like,
I said, if that happens, just pirate it. What's the big deal?
Because one thing I've noticed over time is that I watch a lot of stuff on Netflix, but it's usually like shows that are coming out now or that are out recently that are current. But I don't think in like 5 years have I ever gone to Netflix and thought, oh, I would like to watch X movie. Typed the name of that movie into the search, and it was actually on Netflix to watch. Not once.
Yeah, that almost never happens.
Like it's like literally it's been 5 years since I've typed the name of a movie into Netflix, and it was actually on Netflix.
No. At this point in time, the subscription services are for that's why they're making content, right? They're basically TV channels. They just happen to be probably the best TV channels because they don't have commercials, and that's where the best content is these days, right? It's like, what good content's on like NBC these days, right? Like, you know, it's like,
well,
you know,
there actually is a bunch of good NBC stuff, but I acquired a lot of that on, shall we say, a boat.
I'm just saying, yeah. But like the best, you know, fictional video entertainment media these days is mostly being run on these subscription services, the Disney Pluses, the Hulus, the Netflixes, the whatevers.
But honestly,
Apple
like
TV
one thing
Pluses.
I've noticed looking at these services that I do pay for is that if I add up the cost of all the
HBO Maxes.
Yep, I subscribe to a bunch of them. And if I look at the cost of all of them combined, it's still actually less than what basic cable would cost me.
Right. And it's better than basic cable. So it's like, you know, on the one hand, you can be mad about these kind of situations. But on the other hand, it's like, actually, if you just give up on your principle, your life will actually just be better because you'll save money and get more.
In fact, the pro way to go is to like stuff you really care about.
Everything.
I will buy things I really like. Adventure Time, I bought them all because I like having this archive to like go, because I'll watch that show again. I'll show it to people. Like in the old days, we'd buy the DVD of an anime that we wanted to show to other people regularly. Like Cowboy Bebop, we kept showing to people, so we had the DVDs. But most stuff that we liked, we didn't really need to watch again. We didn't plan on watching it again, so we didn't need to own it. But
anyway,
I like people who you rotate through. Like, I'm going to watch a bunch of Netflix stuff. You got Netflix for 6 months. Then you cancel Netflix.
Yep. Point is, this weekend, go out and watch yourself some Wolfwalker.
Walk some wolves.
Right. You know, the next Geek Nights Wednesday is going to be about that movie.
100%.
I can tell you right now.
I'm excited about this movie.
Right. So go and figure out some way that you're going to be able to watch it.
So in some other news, this is not news. Like the thing I'm about to talk about, it is not new. We all knew this. This is more about some of the details of what it means. You can read the article, why it's the way it is. And it's a problem that even though we know it's coming, especially people who listen to this podcast, a lot of you are going to be in this boat, and a lot of you are younger than us, so you're going to even be in a worse boat, possibly. The article's about how it's basically almost impossible for any millennial to actually retire at a reasonable age. Like, there's just no way.
I know that. That's been known.
But it goes into a lot of the details of like what this means, why other generations could all retire, how millennials are like this, like extra screwed for a bunch of weird reasons. It's very like the details are odd in some ways because like tech workers are more likely to be able to retire than pretty much anyone else in America who's a millennial. But that's because that sector is really hopping for reasons we talk about a lot on the show. But what I find interesting is that almost everyone who talks about this talks about like you did, like, oh, of course millennials won't be able to retire. But almost no one really actually tries to talk about what could we do about it. Like, what should society do?
There's a very easy thing to do about it. There's tons of things we can do about it. That's no problem to solve at all. That the problem is not figuring out those solutions. The problem is making those solutions happen by getting power to implement those solutions.
Yep. Almost all these systemic problems in America are pretty much tied to the fact that the people who actually want to solve these problems do not have power, and you need to acquire power by playing a very difficult and complicated game.
You get the same problem of everything, right? But it's like, yeah, we know how to fix Social Security for decades.
Yep, the post office was fixed. It's working fine until we broke it on purpose.
Right. Well, we didn't break it. Someone else broke it on purpose.
The royal we broke it on purpose.
Sure. Right.
The illegitimate president of the United States broke it on purpose.
Broke it more.
Yeah. As much as the crazy thing about the post office, they've been attacking the post office for 40 years to try to destroy it. And despite all of that, it was still working fine until our current president decided to just
fine by
actually
what
go after
definition
it.
of fine, right? Is like we see other countries that have like incredible post offices, and ours was maintaining, right?
Well, ours was doing the thing is ours was maintaining.
Even when, the evil people had less power, the less evil people did not transform the post office to make it fucking incredible like other countries have.
Our maintain thing was still better than the domestic mail delivery in a lot of other industrialized countries. It actually was more on time, more reliable.
I've seen, we were looking at, you talk about Australia. We just did an Australian post office already 8 years ago, right? And that was better than any U.S. post office I've ever been in my whole life.
However, the thing we mailed didn't actually arrive, so...
That's a different story.
I'm just saying.
I chalk that up more to my poor handwriting.
I'm just saying, Scott, between you and me actually using the Australian post office, we're batting 500 because I mailed something once from Australia and it made it, and we mailed something once.
I blame that more on my handwriting than anything else.
But I guess what the thing that bothers me about these retirement conversations, the point I want to make, because I don't want to dwell on this, I picked this because I didn't have better news and I mostly want to talk about Parasite, is that every conversation about retirement in America, how do we get millennials to retire? What do we do about old people who don't have money? They all still assume that you should work until you're like 62 or 65, when I think we need to figure out a way to have people work less overall. The whole point of working should be that you can enjoy a lot of the time in your life with the benefits of your labor.
Well, I think there's just a clear divide, and this, it's somewhat of it goes along correlates with the age divide in society. But I see plenty of people my age and even younger where, their life is their work, right? Their work is their thing.
Oh,
right?
I'm in a weird place. Most people I work with, their career is like the majority of their life.
Right. And it's like, so those people, it's like they don't want to not work, right? They may even, enjoy working less hours, or they may enjoy having more vacation days.
If I had enough money to retire to a meager lifestyle today, I would quit my job and retire immediately.
Right, exactly. But they want, like, their job is still like their defining thing in their life, right? And if you
Well, you can
take, if
always
they
tell
don't,
when you meet people at a party, and like, and someone like, there's always someone's like, "Oh, what do you do?"
right,
When people
it's
ask
like,
me that, I'm like, "I'm a gamer and a podcaster."
right. People ask me like, "What do you do?" And I'm like, too much." It's like,
Yep.
it's like, but most people, you ask them, "What do you do?" regardless of age, and they're gonna tell you their job unless they're unemployed and do something else,
Yep.
right?
So,
Um,
and I noted like the thing I want to point out in this article is it talks about, and a lot of people talking about retirement of millennials are pointing out that millennials can retire if they work longer, which I think defeats the point of retirement entirely, because hours you have when you're young are way more enjoyable than hours you have when you're old, because things break down in our bodies. Like, if I wait till I'm 80 to fly around the world, I'm not going to be hiking 100 miles through the outback. Most likely, unless we get cyber bodies or something. But this article, like, I'm going to read it as passage here. Working longer is a powerful lever. If Social Security benefits are claimed at 70 instead of at 62, then you can retire like way better.
gotta make it to 70.
Yeah. How many people die before they can retire? Like, you didn't
A
even.
lot.
Yeah, you didn't even get to use that money you saved. And this article even says, quote, "In fact, my research shows that the vast majority of millennials will be fine if they work to age 70. Although," and this is the ridiculous part, "although that might sound old, it's historically normal in another sense." This is old person talking right here.
Super old person.
Retiring at 70 leaves the ratio of retirement to working years the same as when Social Security was originally introduced. Talk about a terrible goalpost to base things on. Social Security came out of the Great Depression so old people wouldn't starve in the streets. If that's the bar you're setting, what the fuck? The bar should be work for 10 years, robots do the rest. Like, that's the goal.
That's right. The bar should be no one has to work ever, robots do the rest. Right?
But look, we, like, you see all those graphs. As we build robots, we automate things. Scott and I, our job is mostly to automate things. Like, that's kind of in the end what we do. So machines will do it. And the more we automate things, the more profits come out and the more work gets done. But they don't let us work less hours.
Oh, we've been talking about this forever.
Yeah, because it's the second biggest concern in my life after defeating fascism. But anyway, things of the day. You call dibs on this, so you get to talk about this.
All right, this is one of the best things of the day in a
So
while.
good.
I wouldn't say that if I wasn't super confident in it. So apparently, right, I learned something about ancient Rome I didn't know. Granted, there's a lot about ancient Rome I don't know.
God, that's an inside joke from like more than 20 years ago.
So apparently in ancient Rome, they had these coins. And not the coins you think of, the Roman coins with, the Caesar's head on one side,
Yep.
right? Or both sides even, right? But these coins, on one side of them had a Roman numeral, usually from between 1 and 16 in Roman numerals. And on the other side of the coin was a elaborate and explicit depiction of a sexual act of some kind. And there are lots of these coins. If you do some Roman archaeology, you will find these coins no problem. If you go to a museum and you go to the Roman section, they probably have a ton of these coins. They're not rare. There's a lot of them, right? Anyone who's dug up Roman ruins has found these coins probably. They're all over the place. They're not a secret or anything. However, in no written record or recorded record did Romans anywhere say what the hell these were for, right? It's like you read all the Roman writings and you'll learn nothing about these coins. Like, there's no talk of them, there's no speak of them, but you find a ton of them. It's like, man, we're finding these things everywhere, but we're not finding anyone saying what they were. So we don't know for sure, according to this Twitter person who definitely knows more about ancient Rome than I do. Unless this is a fake thing, like, a Scottish military ration, but I don't think it is. We don't know for sure what these are for, right? But common sense, right, and basic educated logic would give you this one most likely conclusion, which is the conclusion I also thought of before reading it, which is that there was some sort of Roman law that said, you cannot use, a depiction of, the emperor, right, when you're paying for prostitution as an attempt to outlaw prostitution, right? And so they set up a system whereby you would exchange your Caesar coins for sexy coins, buy sex with sexy coins, right? And then the prostitutes would turn their sexy coins back into, Caesar
You
coins.
just described arcade tokens for
Pretty
brothels.
much.
They're just
Arcade
brothel
tokens for brothels. Right. So there's a good chance that these are arcade tokens for brothels. Or they're fake, or they're a real thing, or whatever. Regardless.
Well, they could just be favor tokens, like, oh, I owe you a hand job. I'll pay you a hand job and 3 blowjobs for that goat.
Anyway, this is too good to not be thing of the day. Check it out, especially the awesome pictures of coins with sexy accents.
What I appreciate about the coins the most is that the people in them just look like they're having fun, like they're smiling.
Oh yeah, no, they are great, and they are doing all kinds of different sexy acts. They're not just doing,
the one where the guys like got the rope.
Yep, all kinds of good stuff going on in Sexy Room.
Yep, this is good stuff. So my thing is really simple. So many of you know I play the trumpet, and because of COVID, I'm stuck home a lot. So one of the things I've been doing for a while is I'm playing my trumpet again, because I was a semi-pro. Like, I almost went to school for trumpet. I almost had a very different life. I don't think I would be podcasting here and living this life if I had actually pursued that. But I was a really good trumpet player, but I play a normal modern trumpet. If you don't know, trumpets and all horns, those keys don't actually do a lot. And 90% of the work to make a trumpet play a different note is all muscle and lips. Like, it's more like exercise. It's like a physical skill. Learning to play a trumpet is more about like learning to ski than it is about learning music. So old trumpets don't have any valves at all. Modern trumpets have valves because you can play more notes. Old trumpets were played entirely with those muscles, and you could only play notes that were natural harmonics of however long the tube was of the trumpet you were holding. Mm-hmm. A consequence, if you don't remember high school physics, of resonance in tubes is that, and the harmonics, is that generally the higher pitch you have, the more harmonics you have. So in a trumpet with no buttons, you don't have that many notes if you're playing low. Like, if you play a note, it'll be like a C. But then if you use your lips to go one note up, you don't get to a D, it goes all the way up to a fucking G. You can't play any notes in between because those aren't harmonics of that tube. The valves change the length of the tube. So a valved modern trumpet is actually just a whole bunch of different trumpets. So you don't have to have 12 trumpets. You just have one trumpet that you can turn your trumpet into whatever trumpet you need to make it easy to play a note at any level. But if you get way high up, fingerings don't mean shit. You can play the same note with like 5 different fingerings, and it's all in the lips. This is a video of someone playing a moderately difficult piece. I've actually played this piece before on a regular trumpet, but it's someone playing a Baroque trumpet that has no valves. And if
you mean like the big long ones with the flag hanging off it?
Yeah, but so some of those actually have valves, and they just look fancy because they're nice and loud and look cool at a Renaissance fair. I played those for money in high school at a Renaissance fair. They're real fun. Or the long ones, yeah, they have the flag on it, but they're actually just a Baroque trumpet. Usually they're not as long as the ones you're thinking of.
But you always see them in like cartoons and stuff, right? It's like a whole two. You're walking towards the king, and there's 2 lines of dudes all the way to the king.
It's those. They're like 3 feet long.
Both sides, yeah.
So this video is someone playing one of those, but I want you to watch it because it really shows how utterly, ridiculously physical playing a horn like this is. Because it is very strenuous to play high notes. And because
it's already strenuous to play something like a tuba, right?
Yep.
It's like something old like that. It's like, damn.
But to play a high note is really strenuous. And to make notes in a trumpet that doesn't have valves, you have to play basically all high notes. Every note is the equivalent of a modern very high note. And this guy is fucking doing trills and like really, really fast melodies with no keys.
Faking it?
No. That's just what it's like to play a Baroque trumpet. They're hard as shit to play.
He's just really good at it.
He's just really good at it. But if you watch, you can kind of see that he's like, it doesn't show it that much, but you see him like sweating and exerting himself to play while he's just standing there. Mm-hmm. Yeah. As an aside, I hate Baroque trumpets. Fuck them. I think technology has advanced for a reason. All right. In the meta moment, I'm stuck inside. At some point, we'll read the tale of Genji. PAX Unplugged. is not happening. PAX West, not happening. Basically, no cons are happening, but PAX Online is happening.
MagFest, not happening.
Yeah, MagFest not happening, as we talked about 2 days ago.
Yeah,
but
PAX Online is happening.
like
It is
imminently.
happening really soon. You can already go to the Discord for PAX Online, which I guess is sort of the equivalent of hanging out in the hotel before the con. PAX Online is going to start Saturday, the 12th, and run all the way through the 20th. A whole lot of PAX Online going to go down.
Yep. Check it out. There's a
I've
Discord server that's live now where you can like hang
I just
out.
talked about that already.
Yeah, but there's already people in there like hanging out.
Yeah, I said that already.
It's like the lobby before PAX.
I
at the
just said that.
Sheraton.
Yeah, I just said that.
Yeah.
Just repeating what I said.
Yeah.
For no reason.
Just
Yeah.
repeating it.
But anyway, that's the PAX you're going to get this year.
That's the PAX
so,
you're gonna get.
So do it. It's yeah. I don't think it costs any money unless you want to buy merch.
I've been not super jazzed about a lot of online cons just because they're like they don't feel like they're gonna do it for me. But honestly, after the Crunchyroll Expo and then after hanging out in this Discord a little bit and like seeing what people are saying, I guess my hunger is so great for a con that it's almost doing it for me.
Yeah, the PAX Online's really trying as hard as anyone can try to really do the online con and replicate the PAX as best as possible.
Yep.
It's still far from the mark, but they're trying. So, and it's actually a combination of Ost and West. So it's 9 days, 24/7 content.
Oh, and in the merch store, you can buy a physical badge that they will mail to you, and they give you they give you a PAX Online one and a PAX Ost one.
Yep. And the West one. So,
yeah.
But what was I saying?
I bought it.
The content is technically 24/7 for 9 days, but at times, for example, our panel is up against no other panels, right? It's
at least so far.
Own.
I heard tell there's something that's going to appear in the main theater slot.
Sure, that's possible. There are there's lots of content from like sponsored adjacent groups like EGX. But if you look at the schedule online, you can see this Ost content and West content, and it's like separated. It's like if you wake up early in the morning, you can watch PAX Ost content on these channels, right? And PAX Australia people, you can wake up at whatever time it is in Australia and see content at US times, right? So when is our panel exactly?
5 p.m. Pacific Daylight Time on Friday the 18th.
Pacific time? I thought it was New York time.
5 p.m. Pacific time. It's like 7 p.m.
Oh, I'll have to adjust my calendar then, because I thought the schedule got adjusted to New York time when I looked at it.
Oh, maybe I'm looking at the PAX schedule. I don't know if it adjusted. I'll go back to the static post I made. Yep, the PAX site adjusts to what it thinks your time zone is, but it's 2 p.m. Pacific time because the official schedule is in Pacific time.
That's right, 5 p.m.
5 p.m. Eastern.
New York time.
But if you go to the PAX site, it doesn't say the time zone on the site, but it looks like it's just in your time zone.
So it's 5 p.m. on the 18th, Friday the 18th, New York time, 5 p.m. Friday the 18th. There's a lot of other panels. A surprising number of panels are from people we know. I just want to point out just a couple just to, carry us over here, right? You got a Sid Meier panel, 7:30 on Saturday. You got the keynote on 1:15 on Saturday. So you can go on this Saturday, the 12th. After you watch Wolfwalkers, you can watch the PAX keynote at 1:15 New York time, and then Sid Meier 7:30 p.m. New York time. You got it's Apple Day. You're gonna have an Apple keynote busting into your PAX on Tuesday, right? The new iPhones, presumably, right? You got a Super Art Fight on Thursday the 17th at 11 p.m. New York time. You got our friend Matt doing a panel on Saturday the 19th at 8:45 p.m. And the Omegathon finale is Sunday the 20th at 9:45 p.m. So stay up late for that Omegathon finale. The Omegathon's going to be a little different this time. I think they're not eliminating people. They're just having way more competitions. I think 1 a day, so 9 total. And I think everyone's going to be in all of them. And they're going to use points or something to figure out who wins or something.
I'm pretty excited. Like, I watch Omegathon stuff at physical PAXs like when it's convenient, but I'll skip a lot if it's not convenient. But for an online one, I'll just watch them all.
Yeah, you could. Why not?
Yeah.
So yeah, come to PAX Online.
Yep.
It's the PAX. It's the only PAX we got. So.
And honestly, like, go into the Discord if you watch our panel while you're watching it, because you're gonna have a rare opportunity. We'll be in that Discord actually like answering questions. Like, we're gonna take questions. If you have a question, we'll just answer it.
Maybe.
I mean, I will. You might not like my answer. All right. Oh, and so, during that part, like your audio was cutting out for me a little bit and then it fixed itself. So I didn't hear everything you said.
Oh, only on Discord though?
Only on Discord. Obviously,
let me check the audition.
I assume your audition's fine because Discord
it's
does
still
cut
recording, so I don't know.
It's probably fine because Discord does cut out every now and then during the live stream, but it doesn't affect the recording.
You didn't cut out at all, so.
Yeah.
All right, I'll keep this audition open.
I'll keep this
audition open. I'll keep my eye on it.
It seems like it's fine.
Okay.
This has happened before, and it's never shown up in the recording you have.
Okay, seems good.
All right, let's jump right into this. So, I would say we became aware of Korean cinema in college when someone told us to watch a movie called Attack the Gas Station. Like up to that point, like we watched a lot of Chinese kung fu movies, we watched a lot of like Japanese live action stuff, but we didn't really watch or know a lot about Korean films until we watched Attack the Gas Station, and we got weirdly obsessed with it because that film is a triumph.
Yeah, it's weird. It's like I'm interested in media from all sorts of countries. I don't care what country it is, right? And it's just that, it's like, well, it seems weird to be always focusing on the East Asian countries, Korea, Japan, China, right? Obviously, they're huge countries, culturally, right? Korea is not huge, South, right? But, we're always like focusing on their media, right? Anime, right? We're not talking too much about, Russian animation. There's very few we talk about, right? And part of it has to do with just how much media they create, but really just how accessible the media different countries create is to us, right? It's like if suddenly I could access a whole bunch of Turkish media in English, right? I might be into that, right? I just can't. That they don't put it out, right? Mm-hmm. So, Korea, or since we're already watching a lot of Japanese, Chinese things, right? I was thinking of Korean stuff because it's right there, geographically speaking. And finally, some of it became available, right? We were starting to see things like Korean DDR, right? And then eventually K-pop became a thing. Right? But yeah, so it's like we've been watching Korean movies for a while. And then, this guy, you may have heard of him, Bong Joon-ho, comes on the scene, and he directs quite a few significant movies over the course of, since, the 2000s, right? You had The Snowpiercer, right, which everyone knows. Yep. It was a big deal.
I love that movie. I think that movie is brilliant, and I love it, and I love how weird and dumb it is.
Yeah. You have Okja, which is, I don't know how many people know or have seen that movie, but, maybe you should, right? It was kind of a big deal. But yeah, so Parasite came out. So I went to see Parasite in the theater with a friend at like the tiny IFC theater because, there was a lot of excitement going on about this movie, before it won the Oscar for Best Picture, right?
Yep.
And then it did win the Oscar for Best Picture, deservedly so.
Yep. Like I saw all these accolades. I saw everyone talking about it, but somehow I avoided knowing. I pointedly tried to not know what it was about because I wanted to just go see it. I've lately doing this a lot with movies where if I can avoid seeing even a trailer, I like to go into movies completely blind.
I don't believe in spoilers. Tell me everything. Anyway, the point is, I went to see this movie, and then I was like, Ram, we gotta see this movie. It's like the best movie. Yeah, even before it was literally officially the best movie.
Yep, and you were like, you wouldn't tell me anything about it. All you said, you just kept saying, there's what's in the basement, and then
I mean, because at the one hand, I don't care about right. Well, I don't care about being spoiled. I'm not going to just be a jerk and spoil people if they don't want to, right?
But I got to say, and we won't spoil anything until we'll warn you. We're going to talk about this movie in a little more depth with spoilers after a point. But I did not know where this movie was going to go. And it started. And I followed it. And I saw what was going on. I'm like, okay, I see where the movie's going. And then the thing happened. And the movie changed radically. And then the movie was great. Mm-hmm. And then
anyway,
but there's a big moment where the movie changes.
If you haven't seen this movie, come on, what are you waiting for, right? Go and see it right now. You can go online, and I think if it's not on any streaming service where you live, there's definitely a legal way for you to just pay a flat rate. I think I got an Amazon Prime Video. I paid money, and they gave me. I could just watch the movie as many times as I want now. You can obviously get a DVD or Blu-ray. You can pirate it. It's a very easy movie to watch. Go watch it immediately. Stop listening to this right now and go watch it.
Yep.
But
I guess what I would say is the acting's good. The cinematography is just beautiful. The movie's funny, but also dark. It is tragic. It is violent, but it is also heartwarming in some aspects. There's a lot going on in this movie.
Like most good movies, it's
Yeah.
got a little of everything. It's not one of those, sort of like just a comedy, just a whatever kind of movies,
yeah,
right?
it's not just John Wick shoots people in the head for an hour and a half, which I love, but that is not what I would consider the mark of a great movie for all time.
No. So, the name Parasite, right? It's called Parasite because, it's about the sort of parasitic relationships people have in a capitalist society, right? Where it's like, you need money to live, right? Well, where do you get money? From someone else who has money, right? So you sort of become much like a parasite on that person, right?
Mm-hmm.
You have to, latch on to them, right? Whether it's your employer or you're a criminal and you're stealing from someone, right? There's capitalism, people's relationships are all sort of parasitic in nature. You're sucking at the metaphorical teat of something,
Yep.
right? It could be a government teat or who knows what, right? And so in this movie, they're telling the story of a family of four, right? A mother, a father, a daughter, and a son. The daughter and the son are like older. They're like early 20s, late teens, sort of college-y,
Yeah,
high
like young
school-
college age.
Yes, young college age kids. And this family is poor, unemployed. They live in like a basement. It sucks,
Yep.
right? And they are
Like if you're American, they're like lower middle class or like, upper lower middle class. Like they're that step below the Simpsons.
Yeah, they're not doing well, but they're not homeless, right? And it's like they have food, but it's not great, right? So this family obviously is a parasitic. They're the main characters. They're a parasitic family. They're parasites on society and sort of like in order to live, right? They're sort of like they live sort of like cockroaches, right? Scamming, con artisting, working odd jobs here and there, right? They're folding pizza boxes to try to make money.
Yep.
Right.
And the movie, like, it's not denigrating. Like the movie really shows like they got their hustle. Everyone's got their hustle. Don't begrudge someone their hustle.
They're hustling. Right.
Because they're just trying to survive.
Right. Exactly. So what happens is they eventually find a hustle. One of the son's friend, was tutoring this.
Tutoring. He had his own hustle.
Yeah, he had his own hustle, but the son's friend is not poor, right? Like they are. And he has to leave. He's going to leave to study abroad, and he is tutoring this high school girl. And he's like, hey, you're my friend. I want you to tutor this high school girl now. I'm going to refer you to get this job, right? Tutoring to make some money because I trust you, right? I don't trust my other college friends, right? Right? But anyway, so he goes and gets this job with the referral from his friend, right? And he sort of, in his parasitic way, scams his way in there. And the family of the daughter that he's tutoring is very wealthy. They live in this fancy house made by a famous architect, right? And the house itself becomes a character in the movie. But the rest of the movie is now about this parasitic relationship of the wealthy family and the poor family.
Yep,
that
like the poor family finally finds the perfect hustle.
Yep.
And they execute it. They execute this hustle. And then what happens after that? It's a movie.
Yep.
But the one thing I would say, like I think the fundamental question, without talking about spoilers, about this movie, like the question to ask yourself as you watch, who is the parasite? What is a parasite? Like for real, it's hard to really talk about this movie unless you've seen it.
Right. No, that's the number one thing I like about the movie is how there's not the director himself said, that the real bad guy is capitalism, right?
Yep.
Is that during different points of the movie, your opinions on different characters, how they're behaving, goes every which way, right? Someone who looks good is like at one point, it's like, oh, look, I'm really sympathetic with this person, right? And the next second they're doing something.
They
and
do
you're
something
like,
that's heinous.
Right? You're like, that awful person. And it's like, it flips back and forth on all the people, like sometimes scene to scene. There's also a gradual shift throughout the movie, right? And it's like, you see people doing bad actions that are on their own heinous, but you can understand why they're doing them. So maybe you're on their side. You see someone doing something like nice and noble, but you see why they're doing it, and now you're against them, right? And all these, it keeps flipping and flopping all over, right? And it's like no one in the movie is 100% clearly good, bad. Like it's not about this direct conflict of these are the good guys, the main characters, these are the bad guys. These are the people we're going to focus on more, so the main characters, but it's this intertwining relationships here between all the characters, and to demonstrate to you that all people are forced to do, they're trying to be good, maybe they're not, but all these things that people are forced to do and the situations they're in are because of society, right? It sort of created this scenario of awfulness for everybody. Watch it explode in an entertaining fashion.
Yeah, I can't just we're going to spoil after this. So if you haven't seen this movie, go watch it. 100%. This is one of the great movies of all time.
So I don't know about that. It's up there.
I think that's not all time. I think this movie will be remembered decades from now. It'll still be spoken of in film circles.
This will be a movie that sticks around, that people in 20 years, where it's movies you should see, right? The same way that's we're still watching Seven Samurai. It's like, all right, well, 30 years from now, people still be watching Parasite for sure.
Yeah.
So some other non-spoilery things about the movie, right? I watched some behind the scenes stuff.
I didn't watch any of that.
And some commentary stuff on YouTube. So I highly recommend doing that after you see it. And some of it was really fascinating about how some of the thing I remember most is they talked about the set where the poor family lives, and how it's this street and they live at the end of the street in a sub basement. And they're like, yeah, everything on this street we built up to that point, and everything beyond that is CG. Right. And that I found was really fascinating. I'm pretty sure the house the movie takes place in is a real house. You could go to it if you wanted to, but it's sort of, I guess it's not a very accessible place. It's up on a hill and fenced off from the world, right? It's because it's a fancy mansion type place.
Yep.
So there's really fascinating stuff to see there. The other thing is, so in the movie, there's sort of there's sort of certain things that happen over and over again. The son, who I guess is the main character, maybe, right?
Yeah. He's the character who basically initiates the movie
and also ends the movie.
Yes.
Right? So,
and he has that, and we should probably explain, you might want to look up what that rock he's carrying around is, because especially if you're an American, you might not be familiar with this concept.
Yeah, it's sort of like these stones that I don't fully understand the deal myself, but there's sort of a thing, people have a hobby collecting them. There's sort of philosophy stones or something. Rim's Googling it right now to learn.
So I Googled it because I was vaguely familiar with it like you, and I Googled it after we watched the movie to see if there was more.
I had seen them on display in some people's houses occasionally, and I've seen people have lots of them before.
I've seen them, professors at RIT would have I'd seen them sitting on a shelf in their office.
Yeah.
They're basically just rocks to contemplate aesthetically.
Sort of like a bonsai tree, but it's a rock, but you don't do anything to it because it's just a rock.
Yeah.
Whereas you have to care for a bonsai tree.
And there's higher quality ones and lower quality ones, and people
I'm
who
sure there are.
care about them, think about all these different attributes.
But anyway,
of
early
them.
on in the movie, right, that college friend who's only in for one scene gives that rock to the family as a gift.
Which I thought was fascinating, because you see this whole scene, it's not really spoilers, where this family is desperately poor. And then their friend, who's way better off, the kid's friend, gives him a gift that, if you're that poor, is absolutely worthless and at best is just a burden. But yet he thinks it's a good gift to give. The movie, that sort of sets the tone for the movie of, hey, here's a gift that does not help you in any way.
But also, the son says, oh, it's so metaphorical, right?
Yep.
And then he repeats that line several times throughout the movie. And whenever the rock reappears in the movie, right, even if he doesn't say it, it's the rock is always doing something metaphorical.
Yeah,
right?
that's
so
for
it's
sure.
weird. It's weird how it's not weird. It's the movie is simultaneously full of metaphor and allegory, but is not subtle, right? It's sort of it always shows rather than tell, which is good. but it shows in such an obvious beat you over the head showing way that no one could miss it.
Which, I mean,
right?
Snowpiercer was very similar. I mean, you've seen Snowpiercer. The movie is just, oh, those are the people in steerage. These are the people in coach. Those are the first-class people. This is a metaphor for society.
Right. I think about the end of The Godfather, spoilers, right?
Yep.
The end of The Godfather, the first one, is two different scenes, right? In one scene, all these hitmen are going out and killing every other mafia boss except the Godfather.
Yep.
And in the other scene, the Godfather is in church, right? Becoming the godfather of like his, I guess, nephew or something, niece or nephew, I don't remember, right? And the priest is like, Satan, do you renounce him? And he's like, yeah, I renounce Satan. And then it shows his own hitman like shooting a dude right in the eye, right? It cuts between back and forth. That kind of allegory that is not subtle is this whole movie.
Yep.
Right.
This movie, like, it escalates quickly. Like, as soon as you think, okay, I see where this movie is going, it will just escalate and escalate and escalate and escalate, and then it just ends.
Right. And it's like every time you think that it's like, okay, I see where this is going. Step 1, we go up the stairs to step 2, we go up the stairs to step 3. It takes it up 2 more levels from wherever you think it's going to be.
Yep.
Right.
Oh, it's raining outside. Oh, rain's a plot point. Oh, rain. Oh.
Right. And they managed to bring back, right, common thing in comedy sketches and movies, right, is like you introduce a thing, Chekhov's gun, and it comes back again later, right? In
Chekhov's
this movie,
Scholar's Stone.
Chekhov's Scholar's Stone, right? But also, it's like, so the Scholar's Stone, when you see it at the beginning of the movie, you're like, that's Chekhov's gun. Yep. I see that. I can tell right away.
There's a shot
Chekhov's
it like zooms in on it a couple times. The kid's like carrying it around. They talk about it.
And it fires. They fire that gun. Trust me. Right. But it does a good job in that there are many other Chekhov's guns in the movie. There's like a whole Chekhov's arsenal, right? And the whole Chekhov's arsenal, it all gets fired. Every gun fires. There's no gun where you're like, they didn't fire that one. It's like, no, they fire all the guns several times even. But some of those guns that are fired, you did not recognize as guns when they first appeared.
Yeah.
But when they first appeared, they appeared so prominently that when they do fire, you remember very clearly, oh, that was a Chekhov's gun. Yep. It was so prominent when I first saw it.
Without spoiling,
I didn't know it was a gun when I first saw it.
The one that was the starkest was the automatic lights in the house.
Oh, yeah.
That's the
least
brilliant.
obvious one. Yep.
Because when that gun fires, I was just like, motherfucker.
And that gun fires 2 or 3 times.
Yeah, it just keeps firing. It's like a semi-auto in there.
Yep.
All right, super spoilers, because I actually want to talk about like what this movie is about, like for real.
But now you know what kind of movie it is. You know what kind of feel it has, right? So you know if you want to watch. If you're still thinking about not watching it, now you know.
If you're super pro capitalism, you might get mad at this movie, and you're probably a bad person.
Mad at this movie, yeah.
Because this movie is basically saying you are a bad person, and it's not wrong.
No, it's not wrong.
All right, spoilers. I think the scene that hit me the hardest was the dad just saying, don't make plans. Like that scene when they're in the shelter after the flood, like that whole scene of them just walking through the rain and like everything's in misery. And like, it almost feels like an apocalypse is happening. And he's just like, don't make plans. Like that's the secret. And then like the next day just happens. Like the apocalypse fades out and then the climax of the movie fades in basically. That was the scene that got me the most.
I think the scene that I think is the most, I guess, most memorable for me is when they're all hiding under the table, right?
That was both funny and a little scary. I like that scene.
It's like because that scene goes on long. It's not too long,
but it's way long.
They're under that table for an uncomfortably long amount of time, hiding, right? And trying to get out of there in a way, right? And it's like without getting caught.
But also the whole time that scene's going on long, but the head injury, like you're still thinking about that, like that hasn't gone away. That's unresolved, and the camera doesn't cut back to it.
There is so much stuff going on at that time, and it's like, you have scenes in movies where things get tense and they get more tense and they get more tense, and usually there'll be some sort of, relief, right? Like, horror movie. It's like the aliens come, and someone dies, you get away, and now you're chilling and waiting for the tension to
But
build
like
again.
getting away does not solve any of their problems.
No, it's like here you just have the tension builds and they manage to find new ways and ways you didn't see coming to have it continue building and twisting and turning. It's like the screw just keeps getting tighter throughout the whole scene. Oh, now the family's coming home.
Yeah.
Now they're fighting over they're fighting over the cell phone. Then it's like stuff just keeps happening. They just keep throwing every time, the current tension is about to become sort of dull and, okay, this has gone on. They twist it again with a new thing to make that scene go harder. I think that scene actually makes up, I don't know time wise, but it feels like it makes up like the bulk of the movie in a way.
Because
right?
that's where like that whole scene, not up until they're hiding, but like the head injury and the fight in the basement, all of that is where it, like they were, like you could make the argument originally, like, all right, there's this rich family, this family, now they are parasites of the rich family. Obviously, that's the facile allegory. That's not what the movie was going for.
It's like that part of the movie where they're, in getting into the rich house, right, takes up, quite a bit of time, right? But then it's like that scene sort of like when they're all when the rich family goes to camping, right?
And then the old caretaker like comes back and knocks on the door.
Poor family's chilling in the house. That is the moment where it takes you into like the next act, right?
That's also the height. Like that is the height that family has ever achieved. That is like the best night they have ever had in their lives.
Right. And then
the doorbell rings.
Right, exactly. The doorbell rings, things get completely off the rails. They keep going off the rails like that whole night, in movie time, right?
But then that scene where like it fades back in the next day and it's like the sun is out. Everything's quote normal. Everyone like acts like everything's fine and goes about their business.
Well, depends who, right? It's like they go home in the flood, right? But it's like
I meant to wake up like after the flood when they go quote go to work
in the gym where they're fighting for clothing.
Yeah. But that long scene, like they're the parasite of the rich family, facile allegory, whatever. But then when they encounter people who are lower class than them, who are in more desperate states than them, they start getting moral. Like, we deserve to be where we are. You parasite, get out.
Hey,
like, fuck you. That parasite's doing exactly what you're doing. They're even like, yeah, you're lower middle class or you're like low class. Those people.
More than one parasite sucking on the same thing, and then those two parasites fight each other, right?
Yep. Because the real parasite is the really, really rich family. That's the parasite. That's the movie.
Yep.
And that I think is really driven home in that like that.
But even the really, really rich family is only the way they are because the way society is, right?
Like they introduced the wife as being like really like mentally ill and broken, but then you see how isolating her life is. The guy like he doesn't understand how to interact with normal people anymore because of the life he lives. But there's also that scene in the penultimate scene where like the rich German family is moving into the house and how the rich people in all capitalist countries are the same. There's no difference. It doesn't matter who lives in the house. Everyone in this movie like fills the role of the place and station that they have achieved. The rich families are all the same. The poor families are all the same. The desperate families are all the same in terms of the struggles and like what they end up being and doing in this world.
Mm-hmm. The one thing that is starkly, most of this is a universal tale of capitalism, right? But the one thing that is starkly different is how after, the ultimate climax, right, with the stabbing and everything, right, the son is in the hospital, right? In the United States, the son would not be in the hospital because we do not have the universal health care that South Korea has, right? The son would be dead, right? And also the justice system in South Korea at the end comes into play, and it would not have treated those people, the United States justice system would not have treated those people the same way the Korean one did, right? So not to say that theirs is necessarily perfect or better or worse. Some ways better, but
the healthcare is definitely better.
Yes, there is a stark difference there that is not universally true for all capitalism, right? Like if you think about the gym scene, even like after the flood.
Oh, in America, no, those people would all just been totally fucked.
Right. It's like, okay, the whole poor neighborhood flooded. Everyone went to sleep in a gymnasium, and there was a pile of clothes to fight over in the morning, right? It's like in the United States, that would not happen, right? You
Yep.
would just be stuck in your flooded house. You'd have to pay for a hotel or sleep in your car, or
Yep. Or some of those people would just be dead.
Clothes. It's like, yeah, no, you'd have to
Also,
go to Walmart
talk
and buy some
about
clothes.
Chekhov's toilet.
Yeah, Chekhov's toilet, big time.
They zoom in on that toilet. The toilet's right, like in our friend's, our other Scott's house. Like he has a toilet
It was
that's
kind
raised.
of the effect. That was the one thing, is the effect of the toilet burping up shit water.
That was
sort
just.
of, but it was sort of a fakey kind of funhouse effect. I
No,
feel like
that's what I've seen that happen. That's what that looks like for real.
It looked very cartoony. It looked cartoony.
Yeah, I'm saying that is literally what a below the like sewer line toilet looks like if there's a flood. For real, in the real world.
All right.
Go look for videos of it. It's terrifying. You know that whole thing about the Pittsburgh toilet in the basement? Yeah, that's to prevent that from happening upstairs.
Anyway.
But the scene where they're first they're attacking and trying to get the other parasite out because, the whole in capitalism, the lower classes are basically tricked or forced into fighting with each other over the scraps. So, of course, the family that's slightly better off now than the earlier parasite, like, oh, we're poor, but at least we're not on the run from loan sharks.
Right. Well, I think what had happened is they had the family, right? Didn't realize that they were, bumping out another parasite, right?
Yep.
Much like they were faking it and appearing to the rich family to be better off than they were, right? They were putting on airs of being, more not wealthy, but
morally more respectable in one way,
right? Above their own class, right? Their smell gave them away.
Yep.
But so was that housekeeper, right? That housekeeper was also putting on airs and ended up fooling. So that's why they didn't have any qualms about getting rid of her, right? Because they thought they were fooled also that person was wealthier than they were.
If you look at the situation she was in with her husband, they need this help way more than this family does. They're way more fucked.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
But this family takes this moral superiority angle of you're parasites, get out, you're breaking the law, we'll get rid of you.
It's like, well, you are too?
Yep. Well, especially because I want to get back to the smell thing first because I found that scene really interesting. The scene where you finally have the rich people by themselves and you basically have this scene where you have the poor dad like hiding and he hears what the rich people actually say and think in their normal lives and how insipid and just classist it is and like what they think of the people around them.
Yep. Up until that point, the rich people are shown as, naive people who happen to be wealthy. They don't do anything that's explicitly evil. You don't see them exploiting anyone, directly, right?
Like they're paying their employees very well. Like that's like that everything seems fair to the family.
It's like, yeah, they're rich. Yeah, they clearly don't understand the non-rich world, but, they're not like actively, reprehensible people, right? But every interaction you see with them is with, between them and others, right? Between them and their employees.
Yeah,
right?
But when there's no one else around,
right.
what they're
and then
really
it's not
like.
Until that point, you see them just talking to each other, right? And not to someone in a different class. And then they reveal their true nature, right?
And there's also there's a little bit when they first displaced the housekeeper, like they finally like secured their space, and now they've made their parasite life. They really convinced themselves that housekeeper will just find another job somewhere because they don't want to face the consequences of the displacement they have caused. Yet then when they have to escape and they cause that horrific head injury, and I remember when that happened, the first thing I thought was, wow, she has to go to hospital. She's going to die. And I was really glad that this movie, like, yeah, that's exactly what happens. Like, she doesn't make it. She's just tied up down there.
A lot of people don't make it.
Yeah.
So related back though to what the rich people, right? So early in the movie, there's a scene where, the rich husband and wife are discussing the underwear that they found that was planted in the driver's car, right? Which was how they got rid of the old driver and got the dad to replace him, right? And the wife is like, she's like gasp at the mention of like drugs. If you have to understand that South Korea, even like, drugs that would be like legal here, even over the counter would like get you in jail there, right? They got way stricter laws. It's actually a big problem. It's like a negative thing a lot of times, like drugs that you can get here, which you should like, especially
a lot of psychiatric drugs.
Yeah, psychiatric drugs especially, but even like you think you get in trouble for doing weed in the US somewhere where there's, if you're black and the cops hate you, it's like, if you're anyone and you got weed in South Korea, you are fucked, right? But anyway, so the rich mother gasping about drugs, like, oh, right?
But they're also like weirdly turned on by like, ooh, the lower class stuff.
Right, but then later on in the movie, right? When she's getting it on, she's like, "Oh, buy me drugs," right?
She's like role playing the prostitute that they imagine, like
right, exactly. It's like, and the dad's like, oh, if you wore those panties I found in the car, I'd be really turned on by that. It's like,
I think that is the unsexiest sex scene I've ever seen in any movie ever.
It's not supposed to be.
Exactly.
It's supposed to be, But yeah, there are.
But also,
it's just another illustration. It adds on because at the same time you see the rich people speaking truly to each other, right? They also draw that contrast by showing you how they spoke when someone else was there versus when someone else isn't.
And
in
then
a second way.
There's also a running theme with the lights and with a bunch of other things around. Each level of the society portrayed in this house doesn't understand the true plight of the ones lower than them and assume they're way better off than they are. And I think that's really shown. The lights, I love the allegory there of the rich guy appears to have just assumed his entire time that he's lived in this house that those lights are automatic. Like, oh, the light, that's just a feature of the house. And you learn that it's literally the crazy guy in the basement doing it out of his weird hero worship of the rich guy. The rich guy not understanding like the sausage making that makes his life possible. Like he has no idea what normal people are like at all. He doesn't understand the things that are easy for him or just happen for him are happening because of the dangerous and insane effort of others who are far more exploited by society. And then you see that paralleled in every interaction in the movie, all the way down to the bottom.
But yeah, that's also, it seems, is a lot of things like that, which are like they're not, rather than running throughout the movie, there's sort of like, one-off non-subtle allegories, right? Of, showing other aspects of, the parasitic capitalist relationship. And there's one where it's like, yeah, despite the rich people being the problem, we're going to show you this thing that happens in the real world, which is people who are really poor worshiping the really rich people, right?
How many people look at how many Twitter stands like think Elon Musk is some kind of god.
I was just going to say, it's like Elon Musk's dick is sucked by so many people who should be just stabbing him, right? That evil dude. He's an evil dude. He's basically Lex Luthor, but even worse, possibly, right? And real. And yet people are like, kissing his ass, right? Who have no money and nothing, right? It's like the same thing. If you are that person, then you are that dude in the basement in Parasite, singing the praises of the rich guy.
Banging your head against the light switches.
Yep, that's you. So shut up with Elon Musk.
Yep. And there's a lot more we could say, but we've gone on for a while.
I mean, you could do probably a whole series of podcasts.
You could make a podcast. Like, this is one of those movies you could spend hours writing essays on LitCrit of all the directorial decisions. Everything in this movie is done on purpose, and the movie is just very well done. So we'll keep the conversation going in the Discord and the forum, I guess.
Yeah. The only other one thing I did want to mention, though, is the house, right? Not only is the house is sort of like a character in the movie, right? It was supposedly made by this famous architect who lived there previously and had the same housekeeper previously, according to the story. I don't know the true story of the real house, even though it is a real house.
The Parks house was a specially constructed set. I just looked it up.
Oh, okay. I thought it was a real house.
The ground floor and the garden were on an empty outdoor lot. The basement and the first floor were on a set. So it was a fake house. Okay,
it was a fake house. But the point is that the shape of that house, right, is so important to the film, right? And the way the different shots that they set up in the house, right? Like the upstairs scenes are sort of like in this other world, right? The basement scene, right?
That's another world.
right? The basement is another world, but the entrance to the basement in that narrow sort of doorway in the kitchen with the stairs, right? So it's like, you see that
Every
scene especially
where someone ascends or descends those basement stairs,
especially where the guy,
scene.
you can see the guy's eyes coming out from the basement, right?
That was actually a really creepy shot. Like what caused the kid's
and then you
seizure.
learn the story of how the kid got scared, right? When he was young and had a seizure. And then there's the main big room, right, with the glass going outwards, right? And there's just so many shots in the movie that I think, obviously telling me it's a fake house makes more sense because, you look at, I thought they just got lucky with the house and like filmed around it geniusly, but it's like, no, they planned like, oh yeah, at this scene, right? It's like they're inside talking, looking out the glass. The light comes in the windows, right? They set up the birthday party outside, the walkie-talkie going in and out through the windows, right? It's like the shape of the house is like, matches the story of the movie, while also the camera, the filming of the movie, right, is like designed around the shape of this house, right? To create the scenes and the shots that they needed, right? So it's really, kind of, I'm trying to think of like other movies that did similar things, right? Where they had, it's not quite a one room thing, like a Glass Menagerie kind of deal, right?
But most of the action happens in that one area. And I'm reading about they spent a lot of time trying to make that set exactly perfect for these shots.
Yep.
They thought a lot about the furniture in that room to establish the idea that the family spends most of their time in that room when they're recreating, because that room connects to the outside garden.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, even though it's clearly a wealthy house, it's not actually that large, right? It's like bedrooms, a giant recreational room with glass, a yard.
I'm not gonna lie, that house looks amazing.
I'd love to live there.
I would do it.
An extra fancy kitchen, a storage basement.
Would you murder someone with a scholar's stone to live there?
Depends who. But anyway, yeah. So I just really appreciate what was Mirai is, which is also Japanese anime. Is
also set in like a special architect designed house.
Yeah, but that's about an architect.
True.
I mean, you could see as Mirai is a prequel to Parasite. If the houses are a little bit similar. Not completely, though. They didn't have a housekeeper in Mirai either.
Yeah.
Anyway.
But no, I love the hell out of this movie. And I'm really hungry, so we can stop right here.
I'm also really hungry. Bye-bye.